All right, welcome everyone to the main journey, a way for you to join me on a learning journey through life. My name is Samuel Main, and today we welcome Ben Albert to the show. Welcome, Ben.
So excited to be here, Samuel. I'm pumped, man. It's gonna
It's
be fun. It's gonna
going to
be
be a lot of
fun.
fun. I appreciate you being here. Ben, I'd like to run through a small overview of your journey so far, simply so that the audience can quickly get up to speed. So here it goes. This is taking a few hours even just get to this stage because there's a lot going on. So I'm excited to go through this. You have a bachelor's degree in communication and media studies, which you have certainly put to good use. We're going to delve into that later today. You have been heavily involved in sales, marketing, and business entrepreneurship for almost 10 years now. You're the founder of One Man Marketing Army, which offers a whole host of services ranging from social media marketing, copywriting services, website development, creative video design, and so much more. Plus, you have now become a veteran of the podcast world, having founded, I don't know how to pronounce it quite well, Balbert Marketing LLC in 2020. Was that correct? Did I
Yeah,
pronounce that right?
Balbert. Ben
Yes.
Albert, so Balbert. So B
Makes
Albert,
sense.
Balbert. You
I
nailed it.
like it. I like it. You've produced 100 plus episodes of the Rochester Business Connections podcast, which focuses on raw conversations with real business leaders in your surrounding area. It was like you were speaking directly to my heart in that part. Now, this has developed into your current project, I believe, hosting and managing a podcast empire called Real Business Connections, which is in the top 5% of podcasts worldwide, an incredible achievement. This podcast, from my understanding, has 5 variations of shows, all shared via one hub. So a little complex, but we're going to delve into that today. It is a very impressive setup and one I hope to learn more about in today's conversation. So Ben, again, thank you for joining me. How did I do with the overview?
Great, man. It's again ADHD and just a love of learning and a love of creating and a love of meeting people like yourself. So, um, wow, I'm humbled, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, I'm happy with how that went down. I wasn't. It's never easy to get that right. What did I miss? Did I miss anything significant?
Um, Nothing significant. I had a music podcast, Rochester Groovecast, that ran for 5 years. I've since replaced myself. We have a new host, but I did about 150 episodes in the music industry far before I pivoted into business. A lot of nosebleeds, a lot of falling on my face, a lot of mistakes. So, all those things you hear right now, it's not like it happened overnight.
Yeah.
It happened through failure, struggle, learning, networking, growing, and honestly making a lot of mistakes. So we can dive into anything you want. But it all started with my love of the music industry. And nowadays I've pivoted into the business realm as, I'm a big boy now. So I'm doing big boy stuff. So
That's ace. Uh, do you know how many podcasts you have created in total?
it's a really good question. I should have a count over 300, over 300
Wow.
that I've
Um,
produced.
yeah.
And then I've been on somewhere between 40 and 50.
Yeah. Nice. Fair play. We're going to come back to the podcast because I want to kind of reverse a little bit. I'd like to start with your degree because for me that's kind of where we really take that step, let's say, into kind of adulthood and actually focusing on our career for the first time. So going back a few years, I know, how much of an impact do you feel actually studying the communications and media has actually had on your career and then journey? You're still on that path.
Yes. Let me answer your question, but first, I wanted to say something in the front. I should have said it like 5 minutes ago, but right before I jumped on this podcast, man, I watched the promo video for your story so far. And I just want to serve as a testimonial for anyone who hasn't watched that video. Fascinating story, brother. I want to learn more about you. I know I'm going to be
Thank you,
answering the
man.
questions, but fascinating story, fascinating life, so much depth, so much just understanding and experience. So dude, I almost feel like I came in nervous. I'm like, I should be interviewing this guy, dude. It's
Thank
your story is incredible. So I hope you do
you.
put that in the show notes so the listeners, if they haven't dived into your personal story, I think they should. Um, dude, college for me was nothing glorified, nothing really to brag about. Um, I'll be honest with you. You know, my family, my parents said you go to college, you go to university, you're going to get a 4-year degree and you're going to get a job, and they wanted me to do what worked for them. Um, and it didn't really work for me. They taught me to travel. They taught me to basically look for all the what's in the world. Like, what school did you go to?
Yeah.
What degree did you get? What car are you going to drive? What job is going to pay for that car? What does your loved one look like? What do your friends look like? And I was chasing all these things, but it was kind of misaligned with what was my purpose in life. Like, I kind of always half heartedly, I went to school and I got good grades because that's what they asked me to do,
Yeah.
but the reason I went into communications, I never talk about this, is I did a lot of research on the school, very wholesome, humble, state school, nothing crazy. I did a lot of research and I saw that communications had very little math, and I was very bad at math. And it had what seemed like really easy courses like public speaking and psychology and sociology and things like, rhetoric and just like, it's like I speak English, so I better be good at English, right? I better be good at communication. So
You'd
I
hope.
chose the easiest, honestly, the easiest degree I could find. And I did graduate top three in my class in that degree, but I feel like part of it was because I chose an easy degree. And I'd go on what we have here in the States called rateprofessor.com. And I'd go and I'd choose professors that were one, easy, two, attractive because I was a stupid college kid, and three, classes that weren't first thing in the morning because I was a party animal, I was a shit show, I was a wreck. It's honestly an embarrassing time in my life because I walked away with a degree, I walked away with good grades, but I also walked away with a drinking problem and no real actual direction in my life because I feel like I forced myself into it, and I'm a retail manager. So I
Mm.
get a degree, I leave university, and I go to a job as a retail manager, and I served in that role for several years. So I didn't even really utilize that communication when I was younger. And a lot of people, my story sucks, right? That story is not good, and I don't encourage people to go that route. But we can talk a little bit more about, the future and what that brought. It doesn't matter where you are in life. It doesn't matter if you're in high school and you have it all figured out, or you're 25 and you hadn't figured it out, like I was when I was
Yeah.
25. If you make that decision today, to start building your future, you can and will. So, no matter who's listening and where they are in life, don't make those mistakes. And even if you do make those mistakes, they happen for you, not to you. Take those mistakes and use them as tools to be better. And we'll talk about more in the brighter side, man. But it wasn't
Yes.
pretty. You brought up university and
Lessons,
my
right?
degree, and I'm like, dude, I can't even believe I got a degree, man. I was
Yeah.
a shit show. I'm
Yeah.
not proud of those times in my life, man.
Yeah. So my degree was in coaching, sports coaching, and same thing. I feel like I cruised through it.
Mm.
Cruised through it. Very, very different times. So you mentioned that you went from college for your university for us, um, and then went into the retail job, but then went, essentially back into marketing, and then actually almost by the sounds of it, back into what your degree was about. How did that come around? Was this like, wake up one morning, need to change my life, or was this a process, or did something happen? What was the process there?
I guess kind of grace of God and luck because I was working in this retail role and
Yeah.
I found a new job in the retail industry, got hired, put in my 2 weeks, and 1 week in, they gave me a call and said, "Oh my gosh, we're so sorry." I literally had a flight plan to go trained in like a few days. They say, "I'm so sorry. There was an internal candidate that somehow we overlooked. And given that they're an internal candidate in the same region as you, we
Yeah.
have to go with our internal candidate." And they withdrew their offer. So I had already put in my 2 weeks in my retail
Yeah.
role. So then I went from at the time having two jobs, two of which I was going to get rid of. One, a retail manager. Two, I was a traveling sales rep part time for Chobani yogurt. And I was going to cut both those jobs to start this new role.
Mm.
And then suddenly I had none of them.
Wow.
So what I do is I just go online and I look for, anything, honestly. Like I did not have a career direction. Guys, don't do what I do. It's still okay if you did, but I did not have a career direction and I found a role and it just said like marketing consultant. I was like, okay, I kind of know a little bit about marketing. And it said like high commission potential. And honestly, it was like
They all do,
one
right?
of those spammy marketing ads that are
Yeah.
saying like, boom. And I go in for the interview and they've got the big screen and the trainer's all like, dude, so look, these are all the numbers we brought in today. This guy, this guy, this guy, they're going to make 100K this year. It was like this beautiful glorified vision of the future. So I was like, sign me up. I have no clue what I'm doing. And really what it was, have you seen The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes.
My company was ethical, but it was similar.
Yeah,
Think
I
high
understand.
energy. I was not using it, but a lot
Yeah,
of cocaine use, a lot
yeah.
of high energy, straight line, one call, tie down closes, boom, 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 make the sale, hit the gong, take the money home. And for me, lose sleep at night because it was misaligned with who I was as a person. I've always wanted to help, I've always wanted to give. And it was like a weird spot.
Yeah.
But it's really funny though, because I learned good skills. I learned that falling on your face was okay because I would make 200 phone calls in a day and only 2 to 5 of them would even have sales potential. So I
The
learned a lot of good skills.
cold outreach, painful.
It is painful. It can be kind of fun. So I'm on the phone and it was I treated it kind of as a game, like I'm going to have as good of an attitude as possible. I'm going to treat every single phone call like it's my last and I'm just going to go ahead and crush it. And when people got upset and yelled at me, we would joke about it, like replay the recording and be like, that was kind of fun, right? But think about like a toxic way to start a marketing career. Um, at this time, and I'll just go on a tangent and tell you the whole story, right? So, at this time, I was always obsessed with podcasting. I was always obsessed with personal development, personal growth. So, I started to learn the ins and outs. I went to university for communication, but not marketing per se. So, I started on my own to learn the ins
Yeah,
and outs of the industry. It was important to me to be able to sell the product, but it was also important to me to be empowered that I understood what I was selling,
yeah,
what I was doing. So I was learning this all on the side. During this time, I was running that music podcast we talked about.
yeah.
So I was honing my skill set in talking to people. And ultimately, I was a small kid, beat up, alcoholic parents. I felt small. And I loved the podcast because I allowed to take musicians in the area, little small time musicians, and make them no longer feel small, actually platform them and amplify them and help
Airtime.
them get more gigs and more events. And so I started to realize that marketing was kind of what I was meant to do. But in this high octane sales role, I wasn't really accomplishing what I knew I could. So lots of things happened. I transitioned to another company doing a similar role. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, just everything just exploded. So our number one product involved in-person video,
Yeah.
and in-person video and traveling to Texas when you're in New York wasn't going to happen.
Nope. Not a
So I get
chance.
I get furloughed. All my residual income, all my commission is taken from me because I'm furloughed. So all the money I was going to make even without making a sale is gone. So I'm starting from scratch.
Yep.
I decide not to go back. And we can talk about the process, but I launched my marketing firm at that time. And through the personal development, the personal work, um, the realizing what I didn't want to be and what I didn't want to do, and the finding mentors and honing my skill set on the side, I had all these little pieces that made me unique. So when I came into marketing as a sole proprietor and as a new business owner, I had this unique personality where I had the music love, and I had the podcasting love, and I had the failures, and I had the
Yeah.
growth oriented mindset where I could position myself and be a differentiator from all the marketers that are saying and doing the same
Same
things.
thing.
And now my story since then is so much better than my story from the first, 27 years of my life. The story since then is where I feel like I've finally started to find my purpose, and I'm not even close to where I should be yet, but I know for a fact that I'm on the right track finally, after again making a lot of mistakes to get there.
Love that. It's really interesting because a lot of time, obviously, we have these conversations and people have that trigger moment or something that happens. And more often than not, it could be something where they choose. They're like, cool, I'm now choosing to do this. For you, it almost sounds like some of this was forced upon you. You were forced to grow. You were forced into these positions. And then you had to make the best of those bad situations. But looking back, it seems like some of these were just the biggest blessings for you because they've enabled you to now get onto that path that you were meant to be on. Because if you didn't, hand in your notice and then, essentially have that job withdrawn, then who knows, you might still be there now.
Exactly.
So when you look back at that, granted, it would have been some tough times. Are you over those struggles from those forced growths, or are they still quite sore for you right now?
It's a really good question. I wish I was completely enlightened
Yeah.
and over, being the smallest kid in school and being shy and being bullied and having a basketball career stripped away from me because I was just too short to play. I wish I was over being gaslighted and
Yeah.
having an alcoholic father. I'd be lying if I said I was. And I think the fact I'm willing to acknowledge it is a lot better than pretending it's not there.
Yeah.
Because I'll just use a very random example. Will Smith walks on stage and he slaps Chris Rock. If
Yeah.
you read Will Smith's book, if you listen to his interview on Oprah, he talks about when he was a kid, his father would beat his mom, and he would beat her until she was covered in blood. And as a kid, he had that trauma. And I'm not Will Smith, but my prediction is that seeing that, and he says it in the interview with Oprah, he's always wanted to protect, he's always wanted to impress the women in his life, he's always wanted to play that role as an advocate and a protector for women in general.
Yeah.
So when Chris Rock insults his wife, he did not handle that in a typical way, but it's because of his past.
Yeah.
And I just think it's ridiculous for anyone to say the past is behind me, I'm over it. I'm not over it. But the question is, and I'm not putting Will Smith on the spot, but are you going to walk up and start bitch slapping people for kind of no reason? Or are you going to be like, wow, I have trauma and I'm better than that?
Yeah.
If I was Will Smith's coach, I would have told him that. Again, I don't have it freaking figured out, but sometimes that happens, right? And you just kind of got to accept that you're not perfect yet, but we don't have to be perfect yet,
Yeah.
right? We just got to keep on leveling up.
It's that awareness, I think, isn't it?
Awareness, yeah.
It's looking at that situation now, and I didn't delve too far into the Will Smith situation, um, but I think it was he had the awareness that, okay, I'd been offended and gone through that process, but then how he reacted, wasn't optimal at all. He could have still made a statement essentially, and gone through that. But yeah, it's really interesting how much of people's journeys links back to that early, childhood and trauma and being through that. And I think it's obviously for you. You mentioned some of the alcohol struggles you went through, even whilst being at college, going through that process. Everyone has their own way of handling it. But for me, I always talk about for everyone that at some point they have a light bulb moment, a trigger, where normally in their adulthood is when they realize, like, actually, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. And it sounds like you're on that right path now, which is
Yes.
incredible.
Yes.
And this is for me is what a lot of the main journey is about, is ultimately that self-discovery to finding your own journey,
100%.
which is
Two,
super, super interesting. And
I'll,
that's for you now, obviously leaning heavily now into the marketing and obviously into the podcast world and so much more. So much. We've got so much to get into. I can't wait. But from where you started, even with marketing, to where it is now, and even in yourself, what's been some of the biggest changes?
just in the field of marketing as a whole.
Field of marketing, but then also I'd love to know in yourself and how you've approached marketing.
Interesting. Okay, so we'll start with light bulb moments, and I'm gonna bring it all together. So
Yeah.
my first major light bulb moment was in the music industry where I was a consumer but not a producer, and I'm
Yep.
cool with that. If you want to buy tickets, spend money at the bar, buy food, support the bands, you are what's allowing that industry to prove that really it is essential. I think music and entertainment and sports is necessary for mental health. So but I was a consumer, not a producer. So
Yeah.
I had the light bulb moment. If I'm going to be a consumer, I need to be an advocate as well. That's when I started the music podcast and started booking bands. Then, as a business owner, I had that light bulb moment that if I want to be a business professional and I want to be different and I want people to want to work with me, I need to be a differentiator. And I had that light bulb moment that everything I'm doing for music, I can do in business, but I
Brilliant.
need to be the man that deserves it. And I can't be the party animal. I need to be the business Ben. I need to reinvent myself, reinvent my
Yes.
brand, and become a person that I'm just becoming now, man. Just loving learning, loving business, loving helping and advocating and allowing business owners to grow. So really what I did the entire way through and what I did in that pivot is I did a rebrand.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing in marketing nowadays that's different from the past is it used to be an advertising game. It used to literally be, I mean, if you were to listen to music, it would be whoever the radio stations
Yeah.
chose. Now you can listen to any band at all. Used to be if you wanted to watch sports, you'd have to turn on the tube and watch it live. Nowadays you can watch replays, you can watch it on the YouTube, you can watch it all day, all every day. And even if someone's not a professional athlete, you can watch, training videos and things like that, and you can watch,
So much
mixed
content.
martial arts. There's so much content. So it used to just be an advertising game. The more eyeballs you get, the way you get eyeballs is you pay or you build relationships with, the good old boys club, and then they allow you the opportunity. Nowadays, we have this unique opportunity that anyone in the world can pivot their career and start building a personal brand today
Mhm.
and gain traction and build a tribe with that personal brand. So nowadays, I don't even think of, let's say you work for, what's a large company what's like a really large company in your hometown?
In hometown, one of my good friends' bakery is Winnie's Bakery.
Okay, Winnie's Bakery. Give
Yeah.
me something bigger. Is there multiple Winnie's bakeries?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, there is quite a few of them.
So there is value and clout to align with Winnie's Bakery. Like
Yeah.
people have heard of it,
Yep.
they know it's the best bakery in the entire region.
Yep.
I still think even if you have Winnie's Bakery, you should build a personal brand because at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of bakeries. There's going to be ma and pa bakeries. There's going to be competition,
Yeah.
but I'm going to want to buy from Samuel because I like him and I enjoy his journey and
Yep.
he's built a brand and he's community oriented, this and that. And then let's say you worked for Winnie's Bakery and you decided to make a career shift. Your personal brand and your personal marketing and your social selling can actually go with you. What happens is as you build up Winnie's,
Winnie's.
as you build up
It's
Winnie's
a funny
Bakery,
name. Yeah.
I love the name, dude. As you build up Winnie's Bakery, you have this unique opportunity to start, gaining a following online and building a personal brand, and then other people are actually going to want to recruit you and pay you more to come work for them because of the brand you've built. So I think the most unique and different thing today than marketing even 5, definitely 10, 20 years ago is the power of personal branding and how personal branding can actually lead to income and revenue. It's not just, I've got nice abs, I've got a nice butt, like this photo and make me feel better. It's literally my grandma has Alzheimer's and I'm raising money to fight the disease. I have a personal brand. I can bring in donors, I can recruit people. It's amazing the
Huge
power of
change.
personal branding. And I feel like the personal branding takes out the traditional marketing where you could work for Winnie's Bakery and not have a brand, or you can work for a smaller bakery, have a brand, and people are going to want to
A
go to
win.
that bakery.
Yeah.
You're going to win in the small game.
Yeah, Joey Coleman talks about it's
Mm,
never business to customer anymore. It's human to human. It's
yes.
that importance of that connection in the marketing, and that's I definitely feel that that's changed. However, I think also with the last 2 years, with how things have been with the pandemic, unfortunately, it's been those smaller businesses that have struggled the most. And arguably, these global brands have got all the grants and everything and survived. And it's the smaller businesses that need everyone's help, that needs everyone's support, especially, definitely in their marketing more than anything. But yeah, that personal brand is so important. And that's been a huge winner for me. I was being super fortunate, some of the connections and stuff I've made just through business in the last couple of years. And those have massively helped me through those dark and challenging times, massively developing that personal brand, because that's and I suppose that's the other perspective, is the personal brand from a place of the marketing can help you build that audience, but then when you go through those tough times yourself, you can lean on your personal brand, which is,
Yes.
yeah, it's been massive for me. So obviously for yourself, you're integrating so many different things, you're developing so many things with the one man army, the real business connections. How has your personal brand aided you in the setup of these?
Yeah, so it's funny because I didn't go into any of this being like, hey, I want to build a personal brand.
Yeah.
Um, really, the personal brand defines. So I like to say branding is not how you define yourself, it's what people say behind your back.
Oh, I like
So
that.
it's not like, hey, this is my brand. Ooh, if
Yeah.
people are saying something differently, you're arrogant, you don't provide any value, you're spammy. Your brand might you might think, oh, I'm omnipresent. I'm like Gary Vee. I post a lot of
Yeah.
content, but people actually perceive you as spammy and a great too
Love that
pitchy.
approach.
You know what I mean? So I kind of let the branding define me. So I've always been a quieter guy. Obviously, I'm being interviewed, so I'll talk and I'll answer anything. But I've always loved being the quieter guy and asking questions and sifting through information to try to find that like golden nugget. Because everyone has golden nuggets, and every conversation I have, I find a few. So by having that beginner's mindset and asking a lot of questions, and then as a podcast host doing that and providing introductions to my guests. So
Mm,
I'm actually someone comes on my show, I'll provide them 3 introductions, I'll edify them, I'll create unique content, I'll keep in touch with them. I'll give them a really human to human, like you said, a human to human experience and show them that I actually care and I actually appreciate their time. So my personal brand kind of developed in its own. I'm a connector and I'm a listener and I'm a beginner. And a lot of times in the room, I'm not the smartest guy, but I'm one of the most resourceful people because of those things. So even if I'm not the smartest guy in the room, even if I'm not the smartest guy at a networking event, I know the smartest people. So when,
yeah.
you come, when Sam comes to me with a problem, I'm like, Sam, I understand diet, but I really don't know physical therapy. But my buddy Andrew knows everything about physical therapy. So I don't have to be everything for everyone. But by connecting in this world of podcasting, I can find the right person. And what ends up happening just in turn is when you give, first off, don't be a pushover. Don't be needy. Don't have expectations. But if you give out of the kindness of your heart and you're not afraid to accept, it'll come your way as well. I think it's important to say don't be a pushover because, nice guys finish last. I don't
Yeah.
think nice guys finish last. I think pushovers finish last. So you
I like
can
that really.
give, but don't give with needy and expectation. Don't give with this mindset that I'm giving just to receive. Give authentically, comes back to you. So I've done hundreds of interviews. That's hundreds of relationships, hundreds of friends, that only 5 to 10% of them are advocates and cheerleaders, but that 5 to 10% help bring in 95% of my business.
Love that.
And that's just kind of how it works.
Love that. Yeah, it's really interesting. You mentioned like kind of the give, and then be okay with receiving. And I think that's probably something for me that I need to develop, because I'm that person that will just continue to
Hmm.
give, and that can be a downfall. You know, that can definitely be a downfall. I would love to delve further into the setup of the podcast, because this was super intriguing to me when, you know, doing my research and stalking you. I'm fully transparent, I stalked you a lot.
Yeah, you notice my website had bugs in it that I didn't even realize I had, so I appreciate that.
Hey, that's all right, that's the level of detail I'm trying to get to.
Love it.
Yeah, I'd love to know the thought process behind the specifically oh, specifically the real business connections, because it seems to almost be like 5 podcasts in one, and I don't know if that's just me going on a different trail of thought there.
No, you're correct. So I'll walk you through this and give just the basic details. We
Yeah.
can dive as deep as you want. When I launched the podcast, I'm from Rochester, New York, upstate New York, between Buffalo, Syracuse, near Niagara Falls in Canada, Adirondacks Mountains, beautiful area. Um, they always teach you to niche down.
Mhm.
I didn't really know if I had a niche. I didn't really even know how to start a niche. But I did know that I was born and raised in Rochester, lived here my whole life, other than traveling, and I had a Rochester based music podcast called Rochester Groovecast.
Yep.
So I transitioned and started Rochester Business Connections. It's literally the domain authority and the keywords of it all is just brilliant. Like if you type in Rochester Business
Well,
Connections, which is what every business person wants, I come up first. Not to mention on LinkedIn, if you connect with somebody, it's actually called a connection. So I'm already giving more details than I have to, but I started Rochester Business Connections and just started having conversations with local business leaders. And as that picked up, and after I was up to like 75 episodes before I started to rebrand, um, I just loved the conversations and I loved content marketing and I loved collaborating. So I kept launching new segments. So 5 Minute Fridays,
yeah.
easy to implement business tips. Real Hits is rebroadcasting of other shows. Um, Ben's Bites is where I just talk about whatever I want. It's an opportunity for people to get to know me.
Release.
Uh, yes. And then Learn, Speak, Teach was the same as Rochester Business Connections, but instead of local leaders, it was national and international leaders. So I wanted to continue just content, content, content. So the Rochester Business Connections brand, which the podcast still exists, it served my local audience, but it didn't serve my ability to reach a national or international audience. So literally all I did is change the word Rochester to real business connections. And now I've brought on guests that I could only just dream of talking to. And if
Incredible.
it was called Rochester Business Connections, they might not take a shot on me because they're like, that sounds like a
Yeah.
small. And I was a pretty big fish in my local market, but it still seems pretty small. Real Business Connection just has a sexier ring to it. So it was really just a rebrand, not to forget my local community, but provide an opportunity to branch out and even bring these national people to my local community.
Yeah. I love the SEO of Real Business
Oh,
Connections.
it's great.
That's so great. So great. It's like you've done this before.
You'd be surprised. Anyone at home, if you have an idea, you have a thought, go to GoDaddy and see if the domain name's available. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I own a lot of domain names that I tell people, and they're like, "Really?" Like I own marketingforsalespeople.com. Marketing for salespeople, because I'm a salesperson that recreated myself as more of a marketer, and I realize that as a salesperson, having good marketing makes your job so much easier. That domain name was available in 2022. So
Yeah.
if you have an idea, guys, go to GoDaddy, buy the domain name for $12.99, and the SEO value of a good brand name will stand the test of time. It's like real estate.
So incredible. Love it. Thinking much
Yeah,
further ahead, which is, yeah, incredible to see. With your podcast, so you don't take any advertisements, right, for your podcast. It's solely then utilized for your own business. Do
correct.
you do you market much elsewhere, or is for you the podcast like your hero content? That's where all of your energy is going.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't pay for ads at
Yeah,
all. And I've thought about adding ads to the podcast, but it's kind of misaligned with the brand. The
yeah,
idea is we want to just give unconditionally. And if someone genuinely is interested, they'll call the guest or email the guest or connect. Or I mean, we don't do advertisements. It's brought to you by Balburn Marketing LLC. So I kind
yeah,
of am advertising myself, let's be honest. But I don't pitch.
yeah,
And I try to not let the guest be too pitchy. It's unconditional value without an unrelated ad for some dry cleaner in the middle of it. That's just the way I took it. But I see it as a marketing tool. It's a marketing expense. I do
yes.
not make money on the podcast, but the value of the relationships and the audience I build from the podcast well pays for itself.
Love
So the
that.
podcast is my number one marketing tool. The other tools I focus on is just making sure I have a beautiful website, making sure my Google presence is great,
And they are
and
great.
and social selling like crazy. So when I create content, I already said this before. I edify my guests. I make them look good. I make them feel good. I give introductions. I'm on social media all the time, way more than anyone should be, because that is a free tool to connect with people. So I don't pay for any ads. I mean, it
Yeah.
costs a little bit of money to maintain a website. There are costs, but you can go the pay per click route. Let's say you go the pay per click route. The moment you stop paying that platform, you're suppressed.
Hmm.
So the
Yeah.
only thing in control is your organic reach and the people you reach organically. Or if you do pay per click, you need to have a nurture sequence to make sure those people stay in your world. But I'm a marketing guy that does very little traditional marketing. I do more the personal brand, relationship
Yes.
building, social selling leg of things, which a lot of my clients do traditional marketing, but I still teach them how to do that part as well because I think long term they need that in their toolbox.
Yeah, I love that approach of the organic. Um,
Yeah.
I speak to that too because I focus heavily on that connection, and I think, paid. There's definitely a skill to paid, but often
Yeah.
the authenticity and the connection can be lost in that marketing very easily as well. I want to actually just reverse it a little bit because I've heard you actually speak very passionately about connecting with people. I think so. Me and you definitely have in common. But you've also spoken before about I think it's the CAN system. So your intentional networking system, from my understanding. What is this, and why is this important to you?
Yes, and everyone should be doing this in some way. It's going to look different for everyone, but we're really missing an opportunity if we're trying to do things alone. And if we feel like our business isn't working, our life's not working, we need feedback, we need mentorship, we need collaborators, that's a sign that you should start doing things like this. Now, I keep adding C's. There's as many C's as you want, but create, connect, collaborate, community, content, and networking. So, CAN is all about creating content collaboratively as you network. Networking doesn't have to just be sitting down and talking about your children and your dog and sports. And honestly, I love that. But a lot of times you're like, I don't know if I'm moving the needle on my career. I don't know if this is actually benefiting. I handed out 50 business cards today and no one really called me. And the only person who called me actually just tried to pitch me. When you go into networking scenarios like this is an example. We are living can right now, creating content collaboratively and networking. So we can build a relationship, get to know each other. And today, you're getting to know me better than I'm getting to know you. But we have an opportunity to share that experience together. while we create content. So
Yes.
by doing that, we get to first we get to build a relationship. That's most important. But then we get to share audiences. We get to learn from each other. We could repurpose that content in a million different ways. So instead of staring at a blank wall, head on the desk, not knowing what to write today, I feel like I'm not a good copywriter. I'm not a good writer. We can actually collaborate to create content. So podcasting is an easy example, a YouTube, a live stream. That's an easy example of how to do it, but there's a million ways to do it. So my number one LinkedIn post of all time, literally 3x 15x my average post, 3x my second largest post. My largest LinkedIn post of all time was when I took a LinkedIn influencer. He's literally a LinkedIn influencer on LinkedIn. Him and his team does research on the LinkedIn algorithm. So he wrote a 25-page report. I took his 25-page report and I reached out to him and I said, I love this, this, this. Again, you got to give value and you got to collaborate. I love this, this, this about what you're doing. I don't have the biggest audience in the world, but I'd love to repurpose your content so we can reach more people. What can I do to make that possible? And are you okay with that? And he gave me his hashtag and he said, tag me and use my hashtag, and the info's yours. I want the world to see it. So then what my team did is we took his content, we took his 25-page. I had zero original thoughts. Now, granted, I did actually provide some of my own
Yeah.
insight, but it required zero original thought. I repurposed his study, and every time I do a post based around that study, it goes through the roof because he has clout. He is an influencer and a thought leader in the space. Every time I tag him, all his audience runs to my feed and starts commenting. And since it's high quality content, it's beneficial because he gets to reach more people. He gets me to create graphics based around his content and help his audience. But then I also get the goodwill of bringing his audience into my world. So if you're a graphic designer, you can connect with people and do just that. If you're a writer, do it the other way around. Say, hey, I'm a writer. I love your designs. I'll give you the words. You make the design, and then we can work together on this. There's
So
so
great.
many ways to do it. Let's say your nutrition and someone else's physical therapy and someone else's personal training. Why don't you guys have a triangle relationship where you do interviews together, you do trainings together, maybe you do product releases together, you host events together? Let's say you're an event promoter. Why are you promoting the event alone? Why don't you have two members on your team promoting as well? Nothing has to be done alone. Nothing should be done alone. We can collaborate collaboratively on everything. I do Ben's Bites, which is just me talking, and it feels awkward. And people like it because they like to get to know me. But I
Yeah.
find that by collaborating and creating content, I get to network, and it's so much more fun. And it's so much more valuable for my audience.
I also find that collaboration, it brings out your best because the
Yes.
questions are different. It's different perspectives, it's new angles, new industries. So that's, obviously I'm very new to this right now, but it's an exciting prospect. I'm intrigued. This CAN system, are you using this for obviously your own marketing, but are you also using this as an instructional tool for your paying clients as well?
Not exactly. So at this time, I'm not a consultant
Yeah.
and I don't pay people for advice. A
Yeah.
lot of people have told me that I should. Again, I'm more just let's give knowledge, and if people hear something and they like my style, they'll want to work with me, but I don't charge for advice. So anyone in my world, a client, non-client, can get all this insight for free. So
Yes.
it's not like a service that's part of, what I do.
There's no pay
And
barrier. It's all there.
and I look to build this out. This currently isn't a service I offer, but I want to work with more, again, marketing for salespeople. I want to work with more people building a personal brand for that very reason. This is not putting any of my clients on the spot. A lot of them are so darn busy that they don't use Can. But since I'm on their team as their marketing professional, I get the job done. But to be honest, and I'd be honest with them, if they actually built a personal brand themselves, they'd be even better.
Oh,
So, a business brand is great, and I can do that. But if someone wants to build a personal brand, They need to do it. I can't do that for them.
Mhm. Yeah,
They need to do it themselves. And I encourage everyone to do it. Best person to do it's a college student or someone who has no direction because they can start creating. Dude, if you're looking for a job, start collaborating. You'll
yeah,
find a job pretty darn quick.
love that. Love that. Yeah, it ironically, like you say, if someone does build that personal brand, they're going to make more sales.
Yeah.
Because people then, it positions them so well, gives them that authority and trust. And typically, they've consumed so much of your content and understand your perspectives when they come to that sales call. They're like, just tell me the price. I'm in. They're so ready, which is really cool. I've got a few more questions, and
Let's go.
there's a couple more just about the podcast. But I actually, before we do that, because some of them are a little comical, um, I'd love to know if you know what this is. What's the future of Balbert marketing right now? Because you've got so much going on, so many exciting projects, and clearly connected with so many people. What do you see for the next year or even 3 years for the direction you're heading in?
Can I give kind of a controversial answer?
Yeah, hit me. The more
I don't really,
controversial, the better.
I don't even care.
Yeah, I
I don't
like it.
care. I want to live today like it's freaking incredible. I'm blessed to have woken up in the morning. I'm
Yeah.
blessed that out of millions of freaking sperm, I was the one that got chose. So the fact I have life is brilliant. And the
Love.
fact I can do things I love and make money doing it is freaking brilliant. I don't care where I am in 5 years because I know that where I'll be is going to be a good place. If you were to
Yeah.
ask me what the actual plan is, I kind of want to white label. And what I mean by white label is I want to teach people how to do what I did,
Yeah.
but then have a team of people to do fulfillment. So let's say if Sam were to want to start a marketing firm, you could do the sales and the connecting and the networking, but you wouldn't have to do fulfillment.
Yeah.
So that is kind of the plan to build a team where I can have people out selling my product for me, but building a personal brand to do it so they can have their own clients and have their own commission. And I would just get a tiny slice, piece for my niece for handling the fulfillment.
Love that.
That's just one idea, though. My friend Andrew and I, we're starting a mastermind group.
Love it.
I've
I
got
knew this was
lots
going
of
to be the
ideas.
case. I knew this was going to be the case. That's
Bro,
what
I got
I wanted to
lots of
know.
ideas. And honestly, I think they're all going to work. But
Yeah.
what I do is I try something out. I see what the market thinks. I see if I feel like my energy is drained. And if it's draining my energy and it's not bringing income, it's definitely not worth it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not bringing income, but it lights me up, it's probably worth it. If you can find the balance where it brings income and lights you up, boom. So I
Yeah.
don't really care
Yeah.
where I am in 5, 10 years because I know I'm going to be in a good place. And that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. I absolutely love that approach. That wasn't what I was expecting, but it's so refreshing. And I think it's so visible in what you're doing because you know, you're acting, you're putting so much action behind what you're saying. And that's just so awesome to see. And it's really interesting you mentioned about ultimately the fulfillment because that's my specialty that I focus on in business is
Mm,
helping develop coaching teams and fulfillment teams and managing those for businesses.
love it.
So yeah, it's quite ironic. I now start to see why Caleb was like, you two need to meet,
It's awesome.
which is awesome. Um,
Love it.
I've got a couple of questions just regarding some advice for other people and then also some advice for myself regarding the podcasting and even marketing in general and business ultimately. So if you were starting from scratch again, we wiped out one man marketing army, we wiped out the Balbert marketing, all the podcasts, it all get deleted, everything you've done. If you were starting from scratch, how would you approach it?
Start a podcast.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a podcast, guys. I'll give you a different example. I'm a photographer starting from scratch. I like taking pictures of food. I'm a foodie. I'm going to start a food blog and I'm going to take pictures in restaurants for free to begin. So again, this is a photographer scenario. My photo skills stink. I would go into restaurant A, B, C, and D. I would take pictures of their food. I would collaborate with them. I'd make sure they're sharing it and tagging me on social media. Then when I've brought in restaurant A, B, C, and D, I go to restaurant E and I say, hey, I'm already working with restaurant A, B, C, and D. You don't tell them that they're not paying you. No one needs to know that. No one cares. I've already worked with restaurant A, B, C, and D. I
Yeah.
thought you'd be interested in the service as well. Here's my portfolio. So, my case, I would start a podcast. It doesn't have to be a podcast, but I'd start collaborating and connecting while I network because dude, I love this. I kind of wish I could I want someone to try this. I haven't had a mentee yet to do it, but I know it's going to happen soon. I hope I can attract them into my life. You're out of college, or let's say you're in college. New city, new state, new country. You're in a completely different country. That's even better. You're in a completely different country and you don't know anybody. Hi. You I could give you good scripts. I'm going to use a crappy script on purpose. Hi. I don't know anyone here. I'm completely new, but I moved here because reason A, B, and C. I just want to get to know the area and meet business professionals that are successful. And I do have an audience and a following, people that like to see that I'm a traveler. So if you put some chips on me, I'll do the best I can to basically stand up and elevate
Yeah.
you and make sure it's not a waste of your time. Something like that. So, new city, young kid, no business, no job, maybe just graduated and doesn't want to go home. Start a podcast or something like it. Come in with the I'm a beginner here to learn from you, but I have something for you and its audience and an opportunity for you to help find your voice. And then what's going to happen through osmosis and just surrounding yourself through brilliant people is you're going to learn way more than a college class could ever teach because you're talking to professionals doing it day in and day out. You're going to connect with those professionals and they're going to want to put their money on you. They're going to want to put their chips on you because you're the little guy that's there to elevate and you're the future of this world. So I kind of wish I had nothing. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but a couple people have said, Ben, you're born and raised in Rochester. You started Rochester Business Connections. What's so what's so great about that?
Yep.
They don't realize that I was an alcoholic in the music scene that had zero business connections, that lost my book of business in Texas, California, New York City, places outside of Rochester when I left my job and was starting from scratch. And I did it in the city that I know and love, but I would put all the money I have on my ability to do it anywhere in the world.
That's so incredible. I love that. It was really interesting. You mentioned the developing a portfolio,
Yeah.
and I love that you brought that up because that I think is just really important. Is a lot of people could get stuck, and I got stuck a long time of not hitting record, not starting, not taking the
Mm,
photos, and stayed there forever. So I never made any progress. So I think when you mentioned that, like, go and do this for free, ultimately developing that portfolio and building it up over time, so powerful. It's find what you're passionate about. It's find something that you're skilled in and hit record,
right.
start, take the photo. It's
Document it.
so important.
You can always delete the photo.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
delete the photo. But if you don't hit record and you don't document it, it it existed, but it didn't exist. Or at least you can't benefit from it.
Yeah. Yeah, love that. Then, so I've actually got two more questions. One is actually relative to me. So I'd like to ask you, obviously, for me, I'm looking to develop this podcast, and I am doing this selfishly. I'm doing it selfishly because I want to connect, I want to learn, and I just want to document my own journey. And I'm hoping that that brings value to other people, and allows me to connect to new people and be able to share that. What advice would you give to me as someone who's stepping into the podcast realm and is heavily involved in business, marketing, sales, fulfillment, multiple companies, multiple clients, lots of different projects, lots of opportunities? What advice would you have for someone who is, in this world with you?
Yeah. It's going to be tremendously strategic and yeah, it's super strategic. But if I were to take three lanes, first, you need to define your perfect client. It's really important to have a vision there. That's a whole different conversation, but define your perfect client. And in your podcast, every single interview should be in one of three lanes. Should either be that perfect client, you're interviewing possible clients. You're not there to pitch them, but sales conversations and marketing conversations just happen naturally when you build a relationship with someone. So have your perfect client on your show. They can be testimonials of what it's like to be in it.
Hmm.
Anyone who is influential or unique or an audience builder to that ideal client. So they might not be an ideal client in themselves per se. They might actually do the same thing as you, but they could be a partner, they could be an influencer, and they will edify and build your reputation with that ideal
Yeah.
client. The third category is where I fall all the time, and it's non strategic, but it is strategic in a sense. Anyone that you would just die for their time. They could charge 100, 500, a
Yeah.
1,000, 10,000. A keynote speech, they might charge 50K.
Yeah.
But from 3 to 4 on Wednesday, on a rainy day, they're at home with their dog. They'll give you that hour for free because you're willing to platform them.
Yeah.
And you have a unique opportunity to talk to people way out of your league, and they're happy to help you if you have the beginner's mindset and if you use Can to collaborate and make them look good and not regret doing
Yeah.
it. So, ideal client, anyone valuable to the ideal client, and anyone who's a stretch. And those stretch guests are also going to raise your reputation as well. So, I'm a giver, but I'm also strategic.
Yeah.
By giving and by connecting, it actually helps me. That's not beyond me. It puts money in my pocket, but it
Mhm.
also puts fullness in my heart at the same time. So if you can build your heart, your soul, and your pockets, why not? So
Love.
those would be my three: ideal client, valuable people to that ideal client, and valuable mentors for your life that honestly will raise your reputation and make you better at what you do.
That was an awesome, awesome answer. Touche. Touche.
I've got I don't know when this will come out, but I actually have a presentation at a freelancing event next week, and we're talking about the CAN system, and I haven't really practiced much, so you're letting me practice. So I really appreciate this. You're like my one man audience. I'm
It's
getting
great,
feedback that I'm not, as long as I make sense, I'm good because I'm talking to like 50 people, and I don't want just a bunch of dead eyes. So
dude. Smashing it. It's yeah,
let's
I'd want
go.
to see that. And well, our turnaround time for the podcast is pretty damn fast, so this will be out before then.
Doesn't matter,
You'll
man.
be
Anytime.
you'll be good. I've got two more questions. I think I keep saying that because I keep having these ideas. I'm like, oh, I want to know more. I feel like I could sit here forever with you. This is
Dude,
awesome.
I don't want to bore your audience, but I do want to let you know I have nothing on the calendar, so it's your prerogative, bro. We'll do
Dude,
whatever
I'll
you
stay up
want.
all night. That's the issue.
Let's
I
go.
love it. I love it. So I've got a question that I ask all of my guests, and it's a different perspective. I'm really intrigued what your answer is going to be because of your question to the future, what we spoke about earlier. So the question itself is, what advice would your future self give to you in the current moment?
Wow, that's a really cool question. You know why? It's really common, what would you say to your 15-year-old self, your
Yeah,
19-year-old self, your 8-year-old self? So this is my future self saying something to me,
right now. Yeah.
but the person right now is coming up with the advice.
Mhm. It's ultimately what's something that's been on your mind
Yeah.
that you haven't actioned. What's something that you let him skip.
My future self, my current self would say this, but I find myself struggling with this, and that's why I know my future self will see and they'll be like, Ben, you're too arrogant in this, that. Stay humble, stay modest. You don't know everything. You actually know nothing in the scheme of the amount of things you can learn.
Yeah.
So stay humble because you might be 10 times where you were a year ago. You're just getting started.
Yeah.
There's holes in your bucket, there's leaks. You still fall and get bloody noses. And honestly, you're making a lot of mistakes because you think you have the answer. You're talking about can as if it's like a bulletproof system. It's not bulletproof. You're not perfect. And honestly, it's just the beginning because I have trouble with this now. The smarter I get, the more I feel smart.
Hmm.
I'm just an idiot, man. There's like a so much to learn.
Yeah.
And bro, like with your traveling and your understanding of the human body and weight training and your ability to look at just that holistic wellness and the travel and the wanderlust and the like I hike in the Adirondacks and I get tired, man.
Yeah.
In your whole like video, you what was it like three of the largest peaks in a day?
Yeah. In Ireland, we done yeah, for the highest peaks in 24 hours, and we finished in like 23 hours 40 minutes or something. Yeah, it was pretty big stretch.
That's incredible. So in this conversation between you and I know more than you about a system I created. No shit.
Yeah.
But you know more than me about a million and one other things. So
Yeah.
again, my future self is probably going to think that I was on a high horse and arrogant because I had an idea or two.
Mhm.
You really got to stay humble.
I love that. And it's really interesting because earlier on in the conversation, you mentioned about ultimately being a big fish in a small pond with the Rochester podcast. So it was like you've had that realization in the past, and that's now triggered that, okay, actually, no, I need to play in that bigger fish, bigger pond, sorry. And that's what you're stepping into now. And dude, I'm excited for you because it's so clear and so evident how successful you're going to be with what you're doing, the
Thank you.
connections you're building. You know, like I said, I done my research, done my stalking, and it just kept going, kept going. And I was like, man, this guy, he's relentless. He's got so much going on, so much opportunity, and you know, the testimonials, the reviews. I got excited, you know, going through and looking at your personal brand. I'm like, man, I can't wait to speak to this guy and ask him
Thanks,
some
man.
questions. So yeah, it's I think you can ask anyone who's achieved anything, and they would almost have that same answer of stay humble, stay modest. Because if
Right.
someone hasn't answered in that way, they're probably not successful. That's how I perceive that.
You know, one of my biggest pet peeves is, you know, I was poor, but this is not the point. I'm poor. I pulled myself up from my bootstraps.
Yeah.
I didn't have help. I didn't have family, and I did it on my own. And I'm successful because of A, B, and C. Most of that's true, but it's not. People helped you,
Yeah.
people mentored you, people took a chance on you.
Yeah.
And when you realize that you need other people, you realize that other people are your route to success. You don't have to do it alone. So it's a big pet peeve when people are like, oh, well, I just did it because I'm brilliant.
Yeah.
No, the most successful people are humble and they lead by partnering. They don't lead by pointing fingers. They lead by partnering with other great people.
I love that. It's so important. And I think not to go too far away from what we spoke about today, but that connection, we've spoken a lot about it in a business sense. But I do think of the last couple of years with the challenges that we faced as a globally, um, that connection's been lost
Mm,
for a lot of people, a lot of
yeah.
people. So I think we're going for a rebuilding phase right now of trying to get that connection back, not just in a business sense, but a personal sense too. You know, with everything that's going on, the world hurting. Um, yeah, it's powerful. So I think it only adds credit again to more of your personal brand and some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
Is like there's a necessity for it. Love it, love it. What I want to do is to ultimately hand the floor to you, Ben. Um, I'm going to have all of your links, all of your socials, everything in all of the description of the podcast. But I want to give you the floor to be like, you know, what's something that the guys can come and get from you? Where can they find you? What would be the best place for them to learn more about you, your journey, um, anything that they can get for free? You've got lots of stuff to give. Um, yeah, where can the guys find you?
Easiest place is Balbert, B as in Ben, Albert as in Albert Einstein, with a higher IQ. So balbertmarketing.com/all links. I'm thinking about changing it because there's three L's there. balbertmarketing.com/all links. you'll find the marketing company, you'll find the One Man Marketing, which is my like boutique service for businesses. You'll find the podcast, you'll find everything. You'll find a link where you can book time and we can one-on-one together. I love LinkedIn. I'd love if people connected with me there.
Cool.
But Instagram, Facebook, honestly, I will meet people where they are, because it's important to make that connection. So balbomarketing.com/all links. But can we provide like a call to action that has nothing to do with me and just has to
Yeah.
do with them? Because you mentioned how, and you're right, like this with Ukraine going on and COVID in the rear view, but still not really in the rear view. I still
Mhm.
feel like it's in the back
Yep.
seat trying to take the wheel again. It's a funny, there's a gospel band from my hometown. They say, don't let the devil ride, because if you let him ride, he'll take the wheel and drive. And I feel like with COVID and Ukraine, we're tempted to just give up. And the moment we give up and the moment we start pointing fingers and don't support each other, that's when this more metaphorical devil is going to take the wheel and it's only going to get worse. So, the best thing you can do, and it can be in a business context or it can be in a personal context, you pick up your phone, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, your text messages, you scroll to the very, very bottom. There could be random people that you shared an Airbnb with one time, someone you met at a networking event, a long lost friend that you haven't spoken to a while. Every day, reach out to three, even one, but I'd say 3 to 5 of those people until all the people at the bottom move up to the top, and you reach out. I recommend doing 45 seconds worth of research. Hey, Sam, I saw that you're in this country. Fascinating stuff, brother. Dude, 15-minute phone call, or honestly, I don't need any of your time. I just wanted you to know that I was thinking about you and I appreciate you because of this reason. Do that 3 to 5 times a day. Let's not like look at the math, bro. If we did that 3 times a day, one time a year, we'd be reaching out to over 1,000 people. And honestly, we'd start reaching out to certain people multiple times.
Yeah.
That creates omnipresence. If someone does have a business opportunity, they'll remember you, but it's not just for business. You're letting people know that they're valued.
Yeah.
You're letting people know that they care.
You might
And
be the
the
first
moment
person
that
that's checked in for a long time.
they could be in a really bad spot
Yeah.
and you could reach out to someone at the right time, and before you know it, it helps their marriage, helps their family, helps them stand up and do what's right. So I recommend business context. It's great if you want to make money.
Yeah.
Non-business context, it's great if you just want to give value unconditionally. Reach out to minimum one, 3 to 5 people a day. Do it for a month. Do it for 2 weeks and tell me if you gain value. Guarantee you will if you do it for 2 weeks. Imagine if you did that for a year.
Your personal life will be better, relationships better, business better. I'm struggling to think of a downside, honestly.
The only downside is it takes time.
Time on social media. But hey, most
Time,
some people are going to be there anyway.
it could be text message, it could be
Yeah.
an email, doesn't have
Yeah.
to be on social. And it does take time. Your time's a blessing. The fact we're even alive, I could be dead tomorrow. Why my time's not so important that I can't spend it on other people as well.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It's a credit to you again that I give you the floor, and it's more important for you in the connection with other people. So I think it adds to your authenticity throughout this, and what you're doing and what you're creating, which is again another reason for me why I'm so excited for what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
So I just want to express my gratitude, Ben, for you coming on this podcast, ultimately taking a leap. We'd never met before this podcast, so this has been incredibly inspiring for me to connect in this way, and it makes me excited to be entering this podcast game and to connect to even more people and continue to learn from you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. First off, bro, your backstory, your story behind the story, your history till now is incredible. You obviously have some good stuff going for you. You're new to this, but you ask good questions. You listen. I know I talked a lot, but you gave me the space to do it. I appreciate that. So whether you do podcasting, you triple down on your business, doesn't matter, man. I guarantee you're going to be successful as well. Again, I don't know your 3, 5, 10 year plan. I don't need to know it because I know you're going to reach it. I'm with you, man.
I appreciate that. Awesome, dude. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.